Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is a Conquest video. Today we are looking at Sector 1, the squads used, discs used, and the progress that I made on the feats so that you can see day by day. And we did pretty well. Please excuse the ambient noise. Not much I can really do about that. Not recording where I usually record. In terms of the feats, this is what we're looking at. We completed Tenacity down, I think, even before we hit the middle boss. Elspeth, we did what we could. Hopefully the Great Mother is going to make that easier. We just hit her behind JML and up against teams that didn't have a lot of AoEs. Then Gungan units, that was done before we hit the final boss. That's quite easy. Decay, if you use it up against the right opponents, that's no problem. You're going to get most of it handled in like 1 to 2 battles. Pretty easy. In terms of the global feats, this is the progress. This is really good progress with just 1 day. Probably by day 3, we're going to be done with the bulk of these just through normal play. This is what I was anticipating. Also was anticipating stamina issues, and we are seeing a little bit of that. It's been several hours since when I played this at midday, so my stamina's recovered a little bit, but it's still pretty low. But it hasn't been an issue. Gungans, we're more than halfway there. Master Qui-Gon made a little bit of progress. Imperial Remnants, quarter of the way. Staggers, that one is not utilizing a lot of the squads that are heavy on it in Sector 1. That's probably going to make bigger progress in other sectors. And then Night Sisters. That one we didn't do too much with because Morgan Elsbeth, we weren't using a Night Sister squad. And we're not going to do the Plague and other Night Sister related feats until later sectors. That's going to happen on its own though. In terms of the discs, this is what I got. I had pretty good luck. Volatile Accelerator was on the very first node. Not ideal, but I'll take a green Volatile Accelerator over the low quality grays that you usually get in that slot. War of Attrition, you'll see what I was deciding between. I had some good options, but I do like this one, and I felt like it was going to combine well with some other discs. We'll talk more about it. Amplify Agony, grab it if you get a blue one. That one was easy. Critical Tactics, that's a newer one, I think. Pretty interesting. I had some other options. I decided to go with it anyway because it was a blue and offense stacking. That's very powerful. That has the potential to be very powerful in the right squads. These 2 green ones are from Sector 2, so I'm not even going to touch on those. This gray Amplify Agony, though, this one was from my Sector 1 choices. At the first node, this was what I was talking about. Decay, Opportunistic Support, Volatile Accelerator. The grays are junk. Easy choice for me. Volatile Accelerator is clearly the best of these. And I do like potentially how it's going to work with other discs later, but probably won't be using this one for too long. At the first fork, we have a very strong top node with a blue Vitality. Almost grabbed that. We have the Protection Recovery, and then Critical Tactics. Now I grabbed the Critical Tactics because it's a blue and it's 3 dot, which means I'm probably not going to see that again. The Vitality, I'm willing to gamble that I'll at least find a green one later, hopefully a blue one, but that is a tempting one. Protection Recovery, that's filler that I'll grab if there's no good options. Lower node is just a bunch of gray junk. At the crossroads, top node, gray junk. Middle node, more gray junk, but an Amplify Agony, and I'll grab that if everything else is terrible. And then the bottom node, Critical Tactics there. It's a green one, but I just grabbed a blue version of that, so we don't need to grab it this time. So I just ended up grabbing that gray Amplify Agony. Now at the next big fork, we have War of Attrition. This is once per turn. Whenever a debuff expires on an enemy, all enemies lose 4% turn meter. And this is why I don't mind that Volatile Accelerator, because that's throwing down dots on all of the enemies. It means there's probably going to always be a good amount of debuffs. That's why I went with this. Even though like the purple 4 dot discs they restrict you, but I feel like that could be a very powerful combination. Even though this weak spot one was interesting to me, but it's also the type of thing where with the 2 dot or 1 dot disc, you're going to find other opportunities for those. So I just gambled here. And then the final node, this was huge. Great luck. Everything was interesting here with the Amplify Agony. That's everyone's favorite. Helping Hands, this looks nice. And it, to me, just depended on what qualifies as a summoned. And then Last Rites, the first time each ally is defeated, all other allies recover health and protection. That's pretty good. And that's something I'd grab in other contexts context, especially when we are dealing with all these marquee characters where we have low stars. Something like Last Rites can help a lot. That was definitely valid in the last set of Conquest where I was using like 4-star Master Qui-Gon and Pow. And this time with Elsbeth, Great Mothers, and the Remnants, that can also be pretty valuable. But here, you see Blue Amplify Agony, you grab a Blue Amplify Agony. With the squads, we were relying on our global feat squads. This is going to be the theme for all of these nodes, and it's why stamina is going to be an issue. I'll even show you the stamina on a few of these teams. Night Sisters, we did use one time, but that's going to show up later. Talia lead, I attempted it. It was pretty useless where I gave it a shot. Gungans, we leaned on heavily, particularly up against any strong nodes, like a Darth Revan lead. I think even like Grievous or Old Republic. I did use Cadme several times. That was partly for certain debuffs, but also partly because she can apply stagger, but also just to spread out the stamina, because I was concerned about the Gungans, because I did want to save a little bit of stamina for the final boss node where Boomadier needs to survive. Remnants, I did this a little bit after I had completed the Enoch ones. We did Enoch quite a bit very early, because Enoch with Paradia, the Judge Death, he has an AoE tenacity down, plus there's that decay, so this was very heavily used to get through those nodes. And we finished all those Night Trooper Imperial Remnant feats before the mini-boss. And so you can see, like, with this squad, we're pretty much refreshed, because I know in day 2, I'm probably going to have to look at them. I have to remind myself what the feats are. But with Gungans, you can see they got very much depleted. This is 9-ish hours since I played, so they've refreshed a little bit. They were down into like 20 to 30%. Cadme down to 76. So she was down at like 60 something. Remnants used a few times. And then in the later nodes, after I've accomplished all the other feats, started leaning on this team. JML with Watt to throw down the protection tech so he could taunt, so Elsbeth wouldn't get taken out by the single targeted attacks and only vulnerable to the AoEs. And that was successful 4 times. I think that was good enough. With the boss feats, my Gear 12 Geos, this worked after I completed the sector, once I had collected some good discs. My first attempt, this failed. And this here's some accelerated footage. These are Gear 12 Geos. I've not really invested in them. I was quite happy this worked out. Part of this is, you can see early in the battle, the thermals weren't landing. Used Spy's attack to take out the stronger one, because I knew the other ones would go down. And then I think that combo of Volatile Accelerator and War of Attrition did some work, but also the Amplify Agony. With the second mini-boss feat was the light side. I just used this Leia squad that I neglected to even update the squad members from last Conquest. This was my preset from previously. I didn't even notice, but it crushed all the same, so whatever. It was overkill, but the thought here was at least Leia could drop a little bit of stagger and make a little progress in that global feat. There's other combos and characters that would have been more effective, but I didn't think it would crush that quickly. For the final boss node for getting the defeat with Cadme, do JML lead. I tried several times under Cadme lead, but what ultimately happened was either she didn't have enough damage to finish off a character, or in a situation where there was an expose and low health, and I used a basic, then we had Master Qui-Gon come and attack first and eliminate the character, and Cadme didn't get the credit. When I tried it with AoEs instead, to not have Master Qui-Gon come in and steal, then the AoE just wasn't reliable enough. So I did JML lead, and just first try, we took care of it. I could have even thrown in Master Qui-Gon into the squad to get some progress towards that global feat. Like, you can just standard, straightforward stuff. Cal Kestis is useful to just get through this a little bit faster, to negate some of the fear, and to have that nice insta-kill. I played this pretty lazily, just trying to make sure she got it. And there you see it very early on. We take care of it. And I think we're just going to stop it. Do we really need to go through this? I don't think so. But we're going to do it, so you can just see the burritos. There we go. Come on. These are the Gungans I used the first time I faced Melgus, and this won, but at 32%, I lost Boomadier. I think I was down to just Boss Nass and Tarpals by the time that I cleared the node. When I beat the node, this is what my Gungans look like. Not much better, 46% though, and at this stage, they just completely crushed. That's just how good this squad is and why I'm glad to invest in these newer squads early. I know Conquest is going to be relying on them. I know a lot of the game modes are going to be relying on them. So even if you are a middle tier account, I highly encourage you guys to go after the latest and greatest. So that is day one, sector 1. Tons of progress on the sector feats, almost completely done with them. And then the global feats, a little bit more like, we're probably a third of the way done. And we'll wrap it up there. We'll be back tomorrow for Sector 2. Right here, we got 2 Conquest videos. One is for how I was thinking about approaching all of these feats prior to the start of Conquest. So that's just me processing what I was seeing. And then the second one here, that is what I think about the Datacrons. So thank you for watching. Be excellent to each other, everybody. Still play as Galaxy Heroes.